An adult frog has a stout body, protruding eyes, anteriorly attached tongue, limbs folded underneath, and no tail. The tail of tailed frogs is an extension of the male cloaca. Frogs have glandular skin, with secretions ranging from distasteful to toxic. Their skin varies in color from well-camouflaged dappled brown, gray and green to vivid patterns of bright red or yellow and black to show toxicity and ward off predators. Adult frogs live in fresh water and on dry land. Some species are adapted for living underground or in trees. Frogs typically lay their eggs in water. The eggs hatch into aquatic larvae called tadpoles that have tails and internal gills. They have highly specialized rasping mouth parts suitable for herbivorous, omnivorous or planktivorous diets. The life cycle is completed when they metamorphose into adults. A few species deposit eggs on land or bypass the tadpole stage. Adult frogs generally have a carnivorous diet consisting of small invertebrates, but omnivorous species exist and a few feed on plant matter. Frog skin has a rich microbiome which is important to their health. Frogs are extremely efficient at converting what they eat into body mass. They are an important food source for predators and part of the food web dynamics of many of the world's ecosystems. The skin is semi-permeable, making them susceptible to dehydration, so they either live in moist places or have special adaptations to deal with dry habitats. Frogs produce a wide range of vocalizations, particularly in their breeding season, and exhibit many different kinds of complex behaviors to attract mates, to fend off predators and to generally survive. Frogs are valued as food by humans and also have many cultural roles in literature, symbolism and religion. They are also seen as environmental bellwethers, with declines in frog populations often viewed as early warning signs of environmental damage. Frog populations have declined significantly since the 1950s. More than one-third of species are considered to be threatened with extinction and over 120 are believed to have become extinct since the 1980s. The number of malformations among frogs is on the rise and an emerging fungal disease, chytridiomycosis, has spread around the world. Conservation biologists are working to understand the causes of these problems and to resolve them. A frog is any member of a diverse and largely carnivorous group of short-bodied, tailless amphibians composing the order Anura, anura literally without tail in ancient Greek. The oldest fossil, proto-frog, Triadobatrachus, is known from the early Triassic of Madagascar, but molecular clock dating suggests their split from other amphibians may extend further back to the Permian, 265 million years ago. Frogs are widely distributed, ranging from the tropics to subarctic regions, but the greatest concentration of species diversity is in tropical rainforest. Frogs account for around 88% of extant amphibian species. They are also one of the 5 most diverse vertebrate orders. Warty frog species tend to be called toads, but the distinction between frogs and toads is informal, not from taxonomy or evolutionary history. Frog legs are eaten by humans in many parts of the world. Indonesia is the world's largest exporter of frog meat, exporting more than 5,000 tons of frog meat each year, mostly to France, Belgium and Luxembourg. Originally, they were supplied from local wild populations, but overexploitation led to a diminution in the supply. This resulted in the development of frog farming and a global trade in frogs. The main importing countries are France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the United States, while the chief exporting nations are Indonesia and China. The annual global trade in the American bullfrog, Rana catesbiana, mostly farmed in China, varies between 1,200 and 2,400 tons. The mountain chicken frog, so called as it tastes of chicken, is now endangered, in part due to human consumption, and was a major food choice of the Dominicans. Coon, possum, partridges, prairie hen, and frogs were among the fare Mark Twain recorded as part of American cuisine. In November 1970, NASA sent 2 bullfrogs into space for 6 days during the orbiting Frog Otolith mission to test weightlessness. Frogs are used for dissections in high school and university anatomy classes, often first being injected with colored substances to enhance contrasts among the biological systems. This practice is declining due to animal welfare concerns, and digital frogs are now available for virtual dissection. Frogs have served as experimental animals throughout the history of science. 18th-century biologist Luigi Galvani discovered the link between electricity and the nervous system by studying frogs. He created one of the first tools for measuring electric current out of a frog leg. In 1852, H.F. Stanius used a frog's heart in a procedure called a Stanius ligature to demonstrate the ventricle and atria beat independently of each other and at different rates. The African clawed frog or Platana, Xenopus laevis, was first widely used in laboratories in pregnancy tests in the first half of the 20th century. A sample of urine from a pregnant woman injected into a female frog induces it to lay eggs, a discovery made by English zoologist Lancelot Hogben. This is because a hormone, human chorionic gonadotropin, is present in substantial quantities in the urine of women during pregnancy. In 1952, Robert Briggs and Thomas J. King cloned a frog by somatic cell nuclear transfer. This same technique was later used to create Dolly the sheep, and their experiment was the first time a successful nuclear transplantation had been accomplished in higher animals. Frogs are used in cloning research and other branches of embryology. Although alternative pregnancy tests have been developed, biologists continue to use Xenopus as a model organism in developmental biology because their embryos are large and easy to manipulate, they are readily obtainable, and can easily be kept in the laboratory. Xenopus laevis is increasingly being displaced by its smaller relative, Xenopus tropicalis, which reaches its reproductive age in 5 months rather than the 1 to 2 years for X. laevis, thus facilitating faster studies across generations. Genomes of Xenopus laevis, X. tropicalis, Rana catesbiana, Rhinella marina, and Nanorana parkeri have been sequenced and deposited in the NCBI genome database. Due to being inexpensive and relatively easy to care for, many species of frogs and toads have become popular as exotic pets. They are undemanding and require low maintenance. Both frogs and toads can be housed in paludariums, terrariums, and aquariums. Because frog toxins are extraordinarily diverse, they have raised the interest of biochemists as a natural pharmacy. The alkaloid epibetadine, a painkiller 200 times more potent than morphine, is made by some species of poison dart frogs. Other chemicals isolated from the skins of frogs may offer resistance to HIV infection. Dart poisons are under active investigation for their potential as therapeutic drugs. It has long been suspected that pre-Columbian Mesoamericans used a toxic secretion produced by the cane toad as a hallucinogen, but more likely they used substances secreted by the Colorado River toad, Bufo alvarius. These contain bufotenin, 5-MeO-DMT, a psychoactive compound that has been used in modern times as a recreational drug. Typically, the skin secretions are dried and then smoked. Illicit drug use by licking the skin of a toad has been reported in the media, but this may be an urban myth. Exudations from the skin of the golden poison frog, Philobates terribilis, are traditionally used by native Colombians to poison the darts they use for hunting. The tip of the projectile is rubbed over the back of the frog and the dart is launched from a blowgun. The combination of the two alkaloid toxins batrachotoxin and homobatrachotoxin is so powerful, one frog contains enough poison to kill an estimated 22,000 mice. Two other species, the Kakoi poison dart frog, Philobates orotania, and the black-legged dart frog, Philobates bicolor, are also used for this purpose. These are less toxic and less abundant than the golden poison frog. They are impaled on pointed sticks and may be heated over a fire to maximize the quantity of poison that can be transferred to the dart. Frogs have been featured in mythology, fairy tales, and popular culture. In traditional Chinese myths, the world rests on a giant frog, who would try to swallow the moon, causing the lunar eclipse. Frogs have been featured in religion, folklore, and popular culture. The ancient Egyptians depicted the god Heket, protector of newborns, with the head of a frog. For the Mayans, frogs represented water, crops, fertility, and birth and were associated with the god Chak. In the Bible, Moses unleashes a plague of frogs on the Egyptians. Medieval Europeans associated frogs and toads with evil and witchcraft. The Brothers Grimm fairy tale The Frog Prince features a princess taking in a frog and it turning into a handsome prince. In modern culture, frogs may take a comedic or hapless role, such as Mr. Toad of the 1908 novel The Wind in the Willows, Michigan J. Frog of Warner Brothers. Cartoons, The Muppet Kermit the Frog, and in the game Frogger.